All right. Hello again, everyone, anyone. Excuse me. And welcome to I'm going to keep doing this until I find out or remember what I keep calling this thing. The Roach Crossing Weekly General Live Stream October 28th, 2021. Hello again. So for let's see if any participants. I'm the only one here apparently. Let's make sure I'm at the right one. I'm still new, a little new to this. 28th, yeah, we're live. All right. I suppose I will wait for some folks to join us. And begin my merry work. For anybody who is going to be tuning into this later, I apologize for the munching, crunching, and other resource consumption. Today was Cockroach Husbandry Day, which is when cultures are doing well, at least, a fun but very intense day. Getting through all 12 or so racks of roach enclosures. Fortunately assisted. So I zoom in manually to look at things. Currently seeing about getting some roaches from a laboratory in Florida. Seem to have quite a few that would have been very coveted maybe 10 years ago, such as Pecnoda Marginata and I guess Diplopter were still around in full force back then. Some Supella. What I'm interested in is that they are a lab in Florida and thus can only have Florida species, although now I'm noticing they have Gromphotherina portentosa on here. So I may probe into that. See, because that could be another pure line of hissers. Hello, some eggs. I see you there. Thanks for coming to another live stream. It's a little bit empty right now. You may have some company in a bit, though. And I am a bit hungry from a day of roach husbandry, so I'm going to be doing some snacking, which might be a normal thing, a regular thing here. Oof. Some days it is a multifaceted approach of managing things on the computer and on the phone, and just a big ol' swirling vortex of another call. Interesting. So for everybody who's watching this curious about projects, emails, etc., I'm about halfway through September, and I do kind of jump around within a month sometimes when I'm working on catching up with stuff. So should be completely, entirely caught up very soon. I'm hoping tomorrow night, maybe, depending on a lot of factors. Do I have any Schnaptra I can show off? You know, eggs? I can, I will probably run downstairs and grab some Schnaptra to show you in a little bit. Maybe wait and see if we get some more folks to join us. Currently, I have, let's see, Rufa Costa Rica, Bilunata, species Perry. And thanks to my very good friend Samson, I did have Trudera peltiformis from Tennessee. And they produced a bunch of babies. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm never going to lose this culture again. And then something happened over the summer after I think babies started getting about third instar. And they just started dying off. I think it was probably too cool and humid in the roach room at that time, because it was all small individuals and fresh substrate, a bunch of other factors like that. They just went from hundreds down to possibly zero. So I'm upset about that. But I'm hoping to go to Torreya in near Bristol, Florida next spring to grab some Derapeltiformis from some true Derapeltiformis from there, assuming I can't get the Tennessee ones again or I can't get them going. So, but yeah, I think I will. I'll run down probably. They really didn't do well over the summer, except for the Perrys. I think it's the stagnation, the humidity of the air. It's not very good for them, even with my good ventilation. Just the food molds faster and a bunch of other factors. Perrys are fine, though, so I may go grab a male Perry. It's been kind of hard to show on the live stream, but I'll give it a go. Must be a game at the high school stadium down the street tonight. So yeah, I think that's all the Schnaptra that are in culture or are and have been. Yeah, sounds about right. There's a whole Rufa or whatever dark phase debacle around Fort Lauderdale. The dark phase of it or something, but who knows now with the Perry's being how they are and whatnot, they could have just been one of the native ones. Roth went back and forth on that. And apparently they were some sort of dark phase of Schnapter or Rufa, and then they were like, no, it's there. They said it was something else. And they said, oh, no, it's this. And I've been around Fort Lauderdale twice, which is kind of a nightmare to navigate when you're looking for hotels or something near the airport. So we visited some hotels and whatnot and checked around the grounds and couldn't find any roaches other than Surinams. So I feel like twice considering that has been a fair effort. Although maybe iNaturalist has some records. What is better, Schnapter or Parkblad? I don't know if, I can't really say one is better than the other. The Schnapter, despite what I just said, are definitely easier to culture across all the species that I have worked with. So, some people like larger roaches, some people like smaller roaches, and there's some sizable Parkblada. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm quite fond of Parkblada pennsylvanica. Finally have a colony of those going from Alabama. And received some Michigan ones about a week ago as well, as are currently in the fridge since they definitely need diapause. So hopefully I have another big colony of those again one day, and then let them keep breeding and breed out the need for diapause eventually. Okay. Oh, some pretty big news. I've spread around a little bit, but I've found a first couple before I went to Arizona, and found one more sizable one now. I always get this wrong, so I'm going to look it up, and maybe one day I'll commit to memory. Archispirostreptus gigas, the giant black millipedes. So I'm pretty happy about that. I wish that there were more so that I could start selling them and that they were of fair size, but I just need to be patient, I think. And I still have all of my adults too, to move them to a new container. As I do, I like to just move them between containers because the young, for at least a couple instars, seem to be cannibalistic, or maybe they damage each other's like molting chambers or something. But I don't have too much luck keeping lots of gigas babies together when they're younger. Just say about an inch long, they're fine. Seems we have a few more people who have joined. So welcome. If you are just tuning in, I was just doing some rambling about my egg gigas success. I'm very glad that I've gotten some babies. Hoping for a gush more, since I have 1 male and 3 females. But we shall see. And as much as I would love to do a wait list, etc., for Gigas, there is just simply too many people, and in my experience with wait lists for things, it's better to just, if somebody's very interested, they'll just sort of check in occasionally with you. And I get many emails daily asking for Gigas, so it's not feasible for me to make an actual wait list with so many people asking. So that means I have to go through and respond to everybody, and they may not be interested still, and blah, blah, blah. So somebody looking for some tiny feeders, smaller than a centimeter. See other good things that I have found today while going through bins. All the roach work really blurs together sometimes. I may shut this window, but it's with all the heat lamps, it gets quite toasty in here, which I'm fine with. Excuse me, especially in the middle of the winter, but right now, our house is still pretty warm. So let me close the window. Maybe not. Don't live in a particularly busy street, so. Anyways, exciting finds in roach bins this week. I have to go through every bin in my head. Dipteroptera mahenstromi are recovering from a small dip in the population. I'll probably be listing them on the site soon. They're a tiny species that is very similar to like a Simplos or a Parcoblata. I believe they're from Africa. And, you know, it's nice when roaches are very pretty and you have to put a lot of effort into rearing them. You know, something like the Hemithorsaustra that I have of light and everything on. And of course, they're very beautiful roaches. But Dipteroptera kind of look like every other roach. Like I said, comparing them to Parcoblata or something like that. But they seem to really need heat just to exist, and I have had very poor luck with them in setups that were not heated and well ventilated. So it's a lot of effort to raise something that I'm unsure if a lot of people would be interested in. It might work well as feeders because they're not pesky at all. Kind of a small size, even if the adults definitely climb. I can't remember if the nymphs do. I'm inclined to say that they don't. So kind of like Parcoblata. So they've been rebounding. I found a bunch of adult males, I think maybe some adult females too. So happy about that. Leuchihormetica grossi are looking very good too. In fact, actually, Junior, who was the person who sold me those when I needed to restart my colony, I need to contact him. And inquire about some Rhabdoblata rustica because I am down to 3 adult females after this summer. And if I had a male, I would be sure that I could restart them, but I do not. So it's going to be a crapshoot if they're fertilized or not. And if they're not, we might lose that species in culture. So I need to ask him because I sent him a group of them last year. If he does, that would be wonderful. What's the oldest roach colony you have? Probably my Blabberus giganteus off of Roach Forum in circa. That would have been my sophomore year of high school, 2007, 15 years, 14, or freshman year. It's about 14, 15 years. Somewhere right around that, probably my Peppards. From Acro, Sean H. I know if he ever sees this live stream, I know that he sends me an email every once in a while asking if I still have them. But my whole colony is descended from about, I want to say 15 that he sent me. Way a long time ago. My orange head colony is pretty old. 6 spots. See, the thing with the peppers, I am pretty sure that I never added back to that colony. I know Giganteus I kept completely isolated because of all the blabbers floating around, but I can't remember if at some point I added some peppers from somebody else. I'm pretty sure not, because I'm not inclined to do that unless a colony completely crashes. So, not dice squads. It's weird to think back then because there were lobster roaches. I've had lobster roaches for a very long time. So it was my sophomore year of high school, circa 2006. Yeah, 2006, that I really got into roaches and started a lot of my colonies. It's a Panchlorus species hobby, maybe. I have some that had a ton of babies, but now I only have a few adults with almost no babies. For Peppards, yeah, for years, my pepper colony just sort of piddled along after being a very good, strong, reliable colony. And I sort of Giganteus, yeah. Yeah, the strain that I have, it's some roach folks who had gone before me talked about having lines of Giganteus that were ironclad and that they could crowd them and didn't have any problems. And I often wonder if they actually had Giganteus or if they had something else. But I mean, some of those people were pretty reputable who said that, so I wouldn't, go too far into questioning it. But mine definitely do not like being piled on top of each other. And I've really leaned in on the ventilation with a lot of roaches because my biggest problem is keeping things going through the summer when it gets extremely humid. It's very easy to overwater, which a lot of roaches do not like, versus in the winter, which we are in now basically with respect to me turning my furnace on, I can just dump water in containers and not worry because it'll all just evaporate because the house gets so dry. So, yeah, lobster roach colony. My first ones came from somebody on, too humid. Yankees definitely don't like it humid. You'll lose subadults and adults very quickly in those conditions if it's too humid, especially without ventilation. So, and sometimes it's just the strain. I'm not ever going to get rid of my strain, my first strain, because it's sentimental, but also it's unique from the other lines that were floating around in the U.S. at the time, since it came from some university, I think in Pennsylvania. So there is another locality line of Giganteus which I received from. I don't know how to feel about naming people while I'm doing this, because I'm not sure if everybody wants the world to know all the bugs that they have and whatnot. But so I'll maybe I'll shy away from that in some situations. But a customer contacted me and said that they had some locality roaches of some common things and some not so common things. So I have some. Another locality of Aranavega bulliana. The current one going around that folks like Alan, TJ, Ty have is Del Rio. This other one is from Hill County or something, Hill Country County in Texas. So it has normal adult males instead of black ones like the Del Rio tends to. So this customer sent me, we did a trade, and I received those. and some locality orangehead roaches from Limon Province, Costa Rica. So I thought that was pretty cool, and my first thing to do was look and see if there were any difference between those and the hobby line. And there actually is. Sometimes you get localities of stuff like the Colossus Panama and the Colossus Peru, and they look pretty much identical, you know, color of the adults and pattern and blah, blah, blah. But the Prosicus from Limon Province, and I have it written down on their little thing, and I haven't added it on the site yet, so it hasn't really sunk in. I just remember the Limon Province. But they the Pecnoda markings are different. Instead of, you know, and I used to look at this very meticulously when I first got into roaches, and now I only look at it when I, you know, get a new line or something. But the Hobby Prosticus line has, you've got like the markings go like this, and then this, and then kind of like that. And so all these lines are very distinct and separated from each other on the pronotum, which makes it kind of look like fancy italics text or something, like in two E's touching some sort of cursive looking writing. And the Limon Province ones, actually, I would say maybe 60 to 70%, with it being maybe even 90% in the males. The top part of those markings are touching, so they look kind of like eyeglasses, or the edges of the markings are touching, so kind of like eyeglasses, and then you've got like this here. So it kind of looks like somebody wearing like one of those like disguise fancy mustache things, you know, with like the big nose and the glasses and the mustache. So I thought that was really cool, and I might actually try and breed for that. I think it would make for an interesting, different line. So yeah, but this customer also sent me a line of Giganteus that are from, I have to look at the label again, some bat cave locality. So 2 lines of Giganteus, pretty nifty. I don't know if I'll label my old line as like hobby line or something. I don't know if I can ever trace the origins, since all those discussions on Roach Forum are deleted with time, since the message box had to be cleared, or whatever, for me to talk to other people back in the old days. Yeah, I do wish there's locality information with some of that older stuff. It's, I try and snag it with everything that I can nowadays. But I don't have enough experience with this new line of Giganteus to say if they're ironclad or kind of like the other lines where they can have some die-offs if conditions aren't good enough. Oh, big guinea pig cage earlier and still suffering for it a bit. So it seems like we've got a couple more people in here. I have no idea how to check that, since it seems like sometimes the number's high. Go to check the participants and there's nobody, and whatnot. Ooh, let's see what other stuff I can do from here. We gotta create a poll. I can make a poll at some point and use that for something. I do plan on doing some little promotional things and giveaways and whatnot through here. Sort of generate the hype. I may do something ridiculous like a pair of rhino roaches or something at some point. Depends. See what happens. I need to contact somebody about some jumping spiders. What kind of dog food do I use to feed my roaches? You have used fish food. Got some Purina dog chow. I seem to not like the pieces. They've been sitting out for a while. Excuse me. I use the cheapest, crappiest dog food from Menards because it comes in a huge bag and it is probably not fit for dog consumption. I feed this to everything but my dog. So I always get a kick out of that. And I feed almost all of my invertebrates that don't have specialized diets dog food, and that I don't actually feed that to my dog. So it's my go-to. It's always had good results with just really crappy quality kibble. Sometimes those fancy ones, there'll be like specific pieces that the bugs don't like for whatever reason. So I like that this is a homogenous thing. And yeah, everything seems to love it. Even if it's moldy sometimes. So, but yeah, I've always thought it was so funny. People get so charged about feeding their bugs, like, oh, it needs more protein. Oh, it's a protein hungry. And it's like, especially for detritivores, these things are eating whatever they can find of very poor quality, just quantity over quality for stuff because that's just what they're adapted to do. And so all this is protein hungry, especially stuff with like the orange heads that was going around a while back. And it's just like, especially roaches, it's like most of them with their endosymbiont bladybacterium are able to continue recycling nitrogen and not need to have a high nitrogen diet. That's like one of their little adaptive gimmicks that makes them so successful, is being able to eat poor food and not have to, seek out nitrogenous sources and whatnot, and why they're so successful as generalists. So people are like, oh, special pollen, honey, whatever mixture. It's like, if sometimes when you mix all that stuff together, it's worse for the roaches because there's just all these nutrients and stuff in weird ratios, and they don't get to pick what they want to eat. That's like the most important thing, is allowing them to, select between at least two things. I mean, I don't go overboard with stuff unless I really, really want that species to breed, or, it's a high risk of losing a culture or something, and then even then it's like I go from feeding like dog food and apple or whatever my second thing is, fruit or veggie for that week, to adding fish flakes. So, yeah. So I don't really sweat whether or not my roaches are getting proper nutrition. Same with the isopods too. It's like most of them are very content to eat leaves, preferentially over other foods if they're in the right state of decomposition, which is extremely well rotted and smelling like horse poop, because that means there's very active bacteria colonies and fungus. Bacteria is probably responsible since they're so smelly. The leaves, that is. So I've been drinking, to go off on an aside, I've been drinking these zero whatever things with stevia sweetener. And I've just been sort of like, oh, cool, I can just drink these and not worry about, like, I don't know, too much sugar or whatever. And then I realized I was getting a little bit wired while I was having all these. It's like, oh, these things don't have caffeine. And then I found out there's like 50 milligrams of caffeine. So it's like I've been casually just scarfing down caffeine the last couple of days. let's see, anything else going on? Particular interest? Getting back on track with all the bug stuff. I can feel my stress levels just going down as things get put away and upgraded and dealt with, and it's been wonderful for my mental health. Which is, of course, I sort of foresaw this coming, which is why I started doing the live stream, knowing that I could get away with sparing some time to do some emails and some showing of the face, show a little bit more here, and try and wear some gimmicky shirts every time I do the live stream. Eventually, I will run out. I'm looking into making some Roach Crossing apparel. I'll find some that will conform to the quality standards that I want. And then, of course, also hope that people will actually buy it. So, had a lot of inquiries for Pecnoda lately. Kind of happy to see that because I think they're very neat beetles, and having had not the best luck with various Scarabioidea species in the past, like Dynastes and Megasoma and Strategus and whatnot. It's nice to have some good, reliable, and very pretty beetles. Mostly it's the whole pupa thing, the fact that they pupate in their own, pretty much pupate in anything, but they're doing their own frass and whatnot. So I do have the three species of Pecnoda, Sinuata flaviventris, currently, working on isolating a orange-bellied version of the yellow-bellied sun roaches. So, kind of paradoxical, but we'll see how that goes, since I've had a couple of those weird mutant ones with different colored bellies pop up. Pecnoda Marginata peregrina, the alien sun beetle, with the common name derived from Pecnoda. Apparently people are calling them sun beetles, so I picked that up. And then peregrina means foreign or alien in Latin, so that made sense as a common name. And now Pecnoda esculca, which probably my favorite out of all three of them, just because the colors are so extra. But they've been a real pain to get going. I think I over-swapped some of them very early on and should have kept them to just get a huge colony going. But I have them. A lot of adults emerging right now, and they seem to be in good shape. I'm just really waiting for a wave of larvae. So I would love to have other Pecnoda species if they ever popped up in the U.S. And I'm constantly contacting people for seedlings because I just don't really want to work with Lucanids and Dynastids unless I know for sure that my setup is going to work. And it's just so much time and whatnot between getting things to pupate and then emerge. We did find Dynastes granti on our Arizona trip. One big female in Cave Creek Canyon, not to be confused with Cave Creek, Arizona. Excuse me. And she did lay eggs, and they still haven't hatched. They keep swelling up, and I think that was pretty typical for granti. I wonder if they even overwinter as eggs. I'm sure one of the beetle people has a better idea of that than I do. So yeah, waiting for those to hatch. I think they're in a very good substrate. They're in like composted rabbit and guinea pig bedding, which is just wood and poop. So, and I do have some Dynastes Tidius from Alabama, and I haven't really pestered around to see if they started pupating or whatnot. It seems like there's plenty of food and whatnot in the enclosure for them. So I'm trying to be very hands-off until I have a better understanding of dynasted husbandry. Some eggs. I appreciate asking all of your questions. How do you find land to collect from? Do you ever collect from national state parks? Depends on what state you're in, state park rules, and of course what sort of officers and whatnot you're dealing with. So I have collected in various state parks before, and sometimes nobody cares. And sometimes, somebody comes by, and actually we had that happen in Florida where we got out of the car to look for, there's an Air Nevada data point at this place. We got out of the car to look for Air Nevada just in the parking lot, like in the little, I saw that there was somebody there. I was like, hey, let's, not run off and look on the sand hills over there. So let's just stay in the parking lot and look around, where people are throwing their trash and their cigarette butts and people are driving over the curb with their cars. You could still find stuff there, but, it was parking lot. And we went out, we started looking around. The guy came up, the ranger came up to us and was like, hey, they know it's a parking lot. You're not technically supposed to be doing this here, and blah blah blah. And so we just left. We're very polite both ways, so we just left. National parks you can't collect from. National forest is fair game. Yes, there's a letter from. This is a pretty easy to find letter, and I probably can't find it. About collecting a national forest from the director of whoever's in charge of that, saying that insect collecting for non-commercial purposes is allowed on national forest property. But they don't really even, some rangers will enforce that and some of them don't with respect to the commercial thing. I think it's meant to discourage people from doing like somebody did in Arizona a couple of years ago where they set up in Madeira Canyon. They went to like the highest parking lot, which has like the best bugs and whatnot, or the rarest potential stuff. And they just spread sheets all over the parking lot and just chased everybody, literally chasing other people who were trying to just park and go about their lives in national forest area, chasing them out of the parking lot. So they want people doing that. But at the same place, we had a ranger come up to us when we set up lights at our camp, and because of this other guy who ruined it for everybody, and now they enforce that rule in that particular campground and whatnot. He just sort of came up to us like, hey, I just want to make sure you guys turn out your lights at like before 10 p.m., 10 p.m. curfew for lights. And he was like, we were showing him the bugs that we had found. He was like, oh yeah, those are pretty cool. I haven't seen that before and whatnot. So it's very situational. Here, I usually go to, like, there's usually like city parks and whatnot. There's one near my house called Botsford Park. I do a lot of Springtail and whatnot collecting from there. There's no posted signs or anything about, whatnot. A lot of cities do have signs posted where they're like, you shall not look at, touch, investigate, whatever, any sort of animal, plant, bacteria, blah, blah, really weird wording. They basically just don't want you touching things at all, but those are usually not enforced. And usually also if you're like looking around for something like Springtails, nobody actually cares, as long as you're not like stealing bald eagles or something weird like that. And of course it helps to just look in like the parking lot and stuff like that. Like, again, where people throw their cigarette butts and they drive over things and there's trash and whatnot, where somebody who's an entomologist looking for little things would be like, ooh, cool, something neat here. So actually it's state park in Key Largo where we were doing some collecting. Some people in our group were approached by a woman who worked with the whatever volunteer service that did the invasive species removal and whatnot there, and she was very interested in the what we were looking for and whatnot. So it really depends. Depends on who you encounter, where you are. It helps to not look like a homeless person in general, which unfortunately I don't always pass that test. So. Oh, and also I collect in my yard because my yard is a beautifully landscaped native plant nature preserve with an asterisk, since I do have my guinea pigs and poultry and my he's laying in the hallway, and my gomper roaming about occasionally. But I do a lot of collecting in my yard. I usually go out and collect springtails there, especially this time of year is great for springtails. Well, you do native plants too? Sweet. I actually don't know where you're located, so we may or may not have some overlap there. How far away do I fly or drive? Definitely drive, because also that means that I can collect on the way to somewhere and on the way back from somewhere, which has always been very fruitful, is just checking rest stops and whatnot. Oh, man. Rest stops basically south of Ohio are just something else. There's so much wonderful stuff you can find. Indiana, yeah. So we've pretty much the same native plants. Yeah, I really can't go back after living the native plant and whatnot lifestyle. It's just like I sit here, and my one neighbors on that side, as I gesture, on that side of me are very pro native plants and everything. They've done parts of their front yard. They've had me do parts of the front yard with native plants. So from this way, that way, for about 4 houses, everybody's got native plants. It's really nice to drive by when stuff's in bloom. Other side of the street, people don't really care. I think they're just sort of like, oh, crazy people across the street, but not worried about or anything. And my neighbor on the other side is everything's very meticulous. Very meticulous lawn, not a leaf on the lawn, not a twig out of place on anything, but he very much so likes, the deer and the charismatic megafauna and stuff, without realizing that if you want to support that, you need to put the native plants in, because deer are not going to eat your 1.5-inch cut grass and whatnot. They want, roughage and whatnot, and the rabbits aren't going to eat that, and doesn't support the ecosystem. But yeah, I just, look out and be here doing emails or working on the site, look out the window, there'll be a flock of goldfinches eating the seeds off of stuff. It'll be the middle of the summer. There'll be like 3 monarchs in the front yard. I'll have hummingbirds fighting each other, dragonflies, all the crickets are live. Actually, let me lean forward and see if there's any crickets out tonight. Couple of jumping bush crickets still calling, but a lot of the little grylids have, it's probably pretty cold out there. Hello, Satchel. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us here. I don't know if my droning on and on has been appealing to you, but you're here, so thank you for tuning in. But yeah, the native plants in the front yard, just love it. Old people have nothing better to do than flood their lawns. Yeah, and I'm not anti-herbicide and stuff like that. I've when I killed my lawn and when I have managed and still manage invasive stuff, I use glyphosate herbicide and whatnot. But it's a tool in your toolkit for managing your land. And people just want to spray 2,4-D on their lawn to kill all the broadleaf leaves over and over and over again. They want to fertilize it, cut it, don't do anything, bag it, throw it out. It is just the stupidest thing to me. And then people complain about, oh, we don't have nature, oh, we don't have stuff like when I was a kid. Yeah, because you've killed it all, and then worse than just killing it, you've stopped giving it somewhere that it can live. You've destroyed the stage that these things can play out their dramas on. That's the real problem. It's a whole other thing I could go on for hours about that too. You really want to get me started, talk about roach husbandry and talk about native plants and the way that we have terraformed our planet and made the United States the second biggest crop is lawn and all this crazy stuff. Yeah, he's retired, so I think I don't know. He knows I have all these bugs and complained to the city before too, and I've jumped through all those hoops and had all the government agencies have been out here to be like, oh, you've got like roaches in like containers and everything looks nice. We were expecting like Joe's apartment or something here, and they're just like, yeah, we don't care. So he's probably a little upset about that, but I would love for him to come over and be like, hey, can you show me how to like just turn this one little area into like native plants? Like I don't give a crap if we disagree or if he called the city on me over something or whatever. I just want the nature. It's not about me. It's not about petty human conflict. It's about like giving the birds food and giving the bugs food and all that other stuff. So, but so wow, 7:55. So I don't know when we'll wrap up today. Since I will go get those Schnapter. I did have something I wanted to bring up. It seems like we might have a fair amount of people in here, so I might as well show them off. Say where this is not a invertebrates today actually, but some people may not know this, but I do like reptiles too. Just reptiles are more work than invertebrates in many cases. But today, a friend of mine, Kim Wisman, who has been a mentor and has directed me and others on our various trips to Arizona and old husbandry tips and tricks and just a wonderful treasure trove of all kinds of that old school keeper wisdom. But he has quite a few reptiles, and particularly fond of snakes and whatnot. And so I had forgotten that he keeps and raises these Asclepian snakes. So he dropped off 2 females that he produced this year here, and I'm kind of a fan of these sort of like brown these brown snakes, and I really liked seeing all the corn snake morphs and seeing all the morphs of stuff. I do enjoy seeing that. Very pretty, and understanding that there was like an artistic work and whatnot that went into selectively breeding things like that. But I'm very fond of wild type snakes, even things that are not considered conventionally pretty, I guess. But the thing with these Asclepian snakes is that they have history with humans. They were semi-domesticated or something along those lines, very passively. In Greece, the Temple of Asclepius, which is associated with medicine, there was a very active population of them living there, and I suppose that they were given tributes of what have you. I don't know how you would go about catching mice to pay your tribute to the Asclepian snakes of the temple, but yeah. So that's another thing I mentioned is that there must be something of adaptive value to looking like this. For some of those European snakes, because it reminds me of the of grass snakes. I can't remember what the Latin is. It's grass snake, which is also found in Europe. Natrix, of course, the natricine snakes, natrix. So yeah, it reminds me a lot of a grass snake, but it'll grow up to look a lot more like kind of like a patternless milk snake of sorts or something. So I was very happy to be able to acquire these because it's right up my alley with sort of like uncommon, quirky snakes, and of course there's the history with them. They're also the snake depicted on the rod of Asclepius. So there's the one that people always think is the medical rod thing. I can't remember what that actually is, but it's the one that has like the rod in the center, the two pairs of wings or whatever, and the two snakes intertwined up it. That is not actually the symbol for medicine or for whatever. It's not the actual symbol. The one that is the rod of Asclepius, which is the single rod with the Asclepian snake winding its way up it. That's the actual medical whatever symbol it's supposed to represent. So this is the snake that is depicted on there. So yeah, I was quite happy to get these. Caduceus, thank you. Yeah, thank you, Satchel. That's the rod of Caduceus or whatever. So yeah, so these are the Asclepian snakes. They're pretty cute. They were, one of them was kind of a bat out of hell, and yeah, rod of Asclepius. One of these was kind of a bat out of hell earlier. They've calmed down. One of them was a lot more calmer off the bat with handling. So the next thing we'll be trying to find a male for them eventually if Kim doesn't produce any next year and whatnot. Theory about the rod of Asclepius representing Guinea Worm. No, I have not heard anything about that. That's bizarre. Have to look into that. Yeah, I just knew about the depiction of these guys on there, but yeah, they're pretty nifty snakes. You know, pretty basic. I don't think any of Kim doesn't like power feed or anything his snakes, although they do end up getting pretty huge anyways. But I don't think any of his adults are over 2 feet, even though I think they're recorded as getting over 2 meters, maybe. So yeah, I don't know about the origins of the symbol being the two snakes actually being leeches for the caduceus staff or whatever. I just know that now it's depicted as 2 snakes or whatever. Maybe one of those things where we sort of bastardized symbology over time because of whatever reasons, and we messed things up and we just sort of went along with it because of some important institution used it as a symbol or whatever. So anyways, yeah, Asclepius, the Asclepian snakes, the rat snakes, but they've been reclassified in a different genus or something now. Who knows? They should have just split. They wanted to do all the splitting. They should have just split old and new world stuff a long time ago along genus lines. Satchel says the guinea worm is a parasite that burrows in the foot, and the traditional way to remove it was to slowly twist it around a stick so that the worm wouldn't break and rot inside the foot. Huh. And then maybe it was sort of bastardized from there into being a snake winding up a foot or something along those lines. Interesting. That's an awful parasite. Or mango worms, talking about things that should not be named. Parasites are quite interesting, especially the ones that just sort of like eventually become just sort of like one with their host and don't really cause any sort of like noticeable fitness decline or what have you. Commensals, as they are called. So, yeah, maybe I'll keep going for another 15, 20 minutes. I'll go and grab one of the Ashnoptera species peri-adult males and bring it up to attempt to display. Maybe I'll put it in a deli cup and hold it that way. About halfway through September in terms of answering emails. It is really a slog, and I do regret in part having done the hiatus over the summer, but can't change the past. So, but just got to learn from things and move on from there. Okay, so yeah, I think I'll go grab a Schnoptera, species Perry adult male. Maybe if I can grab an adult female and if it'll be presentable in a deli cup, do that. So I will be right back, everybody. Hopefully it won't take 10 minutes to catch one. Sorry, Victor. All right, I have returned. It's actually pretty easy to catch them, considering today was Roach Husbandry Day, so everybody's all plump and slow, and they did spit up a little. We have Samson, if that is one Samson Braden. Hello, and thank you for tuning in. Again, if that is Samson. I had brought this up earlier, but while we're talking about a Schnoptera, for some reason I had hundreds of the Derapaltiformis from Tennessee, and they were doing great. And then for whatever reason, about midway through the summer, they just all started dying when they all were around third instar. And I'm thinking that it was probably air humidity going up, temperature going down from the AC, and the food molding because of that combination of factors. So give it another go next year and probably just keep those suckers on heat. But so here we have a Schnoptera species Perry. It's a winged male and Brachypterus female. And actually I do really like these. Maybe not quite as much as Derapaltiformis and Sensu Stricto. These could be Derapaltiformis. I brought that up. Let's see. One day I'll find a more efficient way of doing this. So, but yeah, the wing color on the males is quite interesting. It's kind of like the Pycnoscelis striatus, where I don't know if it's an optical illusion or something, but where part of the wing is kind of clear, and so it kind of looks kind of reflective or shiny or something, and the rest of it's sort of red. Yes, they are the Panhandle boys, Satchel. From not the original collected ones from the first Florida trip, but these were from Alan going back and collecting more. And also the most interesting thing was the fact that the first time we collected them, all the males were Brachypterus, and now all the males are Macropterus, and they were all from the same spot. So we don't know really what the deal is with that. I'm wondering if, like in Pycnoscelis phemapterus, where maybe population density or something causes the males to mature Brachypterus or whatever. Yeah, supposedly Durapaltiformis range all the way up to Michigan or Ohio, according to Orrin McMonigal. They range that far north. Don't seem very well adapted to handling the cold. So, but these Perrys have been doing really well, so they may actually end up being a subspecies or something of Durapaltiformis or a variety. The males are definitely very different. The females pass more as Durapaltiformis, except the wings are reddish instead of black like the Tennessee Durapaltiformis. Maybe Orrin will find his way into the live stream one day. That would be quite interesting. I've never met him and have intermittent conversations with him on Roach Forum and whatnot. But there's plenty of good advice on things and plenty of bad advice, just as I do, I guess. So, but yeah, it could have been, who knows. But yeah, I want to get Durapaltiformis again from Tennessee, and if that doesn't work, I do know, or pretty sure the ones from Torreya in Florida are a bit easier, assuming. I mean, Alan's been talking about Torreya having been leveled by that hurricane like 7 years ago or something. But you know, they lived in leaf litter, so it'd probably be pretty easy to find if they're still there, which they should be. So, but I would like. I guess I could try both locales. Use the live stream to spread the word about his new book. I do have some of his reading materials here. Back in the day, they were pretty good stuff. And we really pull out for old time's sake the old All Pet Roach book, circa 2006. But I think that he published this a lot earlier than that, so it's not actually from. Text copyright 2000. Oh baby, the OG Roach book. I don't actually have the hardcover one. I feel a little bad about that because it's like, you know, I'm in the Roach hobby and whatnot, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get it eventually. It's kind of like, this was like my checklist for when I was younger of things to collect. There may be some checks in here on the pages. It's just funny because I did it very half-assedly as far as like things that I wanted, like this Theria. I want to say Theria so bad. Theria Petaveriana with a little star next to it. The Banchua robusta crossed out next to the African bullet roach. But the front is just. It is an artifact of its time, is what the front is. It's very Mediafire, GeoCities looking. Oh man, if only we ever got Paratropies. Oh, so great. Yeah, the back. Let's see what we have here on the back. We've got G. portentosa, B. cranifer, presumably Orrin's line, Eurycotus decipiens, Panchlora, probably the hobby species and not the actual Nivea. Yeah, someone gives me the Mantis one. Nostalgic memories. You sent Orrin some. Actually, you sent him some Kambala species in the book. Yeah, and I do have the Cockroach Society special publication. I have the one article I wrote for that with the pictures. And some the European language, Germanic European language one, I think it was German, where they had some pictures of the Eublabrus genitalia. Let's see, G. Lurida yellow. Mine still look like that. I don't have browns in my yellow colony. Petaveriana, Petaveriana, whatever, Fusca, Harlequin, Rhombifolia. Subkinkta. Yeah, all these are still around. That's pretty cool. Is that 24? It doesn't feel like 24 roach species. Anyways, yeah, this is oh boy, there are pictures of some Glomeriny in here from back in the day. What are they? Image 23 they're listed in the plate as metallic cockroaches. There is no Latin of any sort, even an attempt associated with them. Very, very interesting. Oh, the Gyna bisanulata is referred to as Gyna henrardi. Very interesting. I do remember looking at this page. There's something about I will give some credit to the older pictures of roaches. Hey Satchel, some pseudomops. Should go get me some more pseudomops, Satchel. There's something about these old pictures that's very not just nostalgic. That was very very alluring, it was just sort of, especially some of these black and white ones, like these Parkoblada pictures where you can barely even tell like what you're looking at, but it's just sort of makes it all the more where you're like, oh yeah, I want to like collect that and see what it do and whatnot. What is this picture of this Parkoblada lata? This is really a lata? It's just, I don't know, something about the perspective on this picture here just makes it look like definitely not a wood roach. Thank you, Satchel. I appreciate you taking the time to go look for pseudomops. I also am pestering Alan about it because I need to restart my colony because I put some isopods in there to try and isolate a color form in a very passive manner by growing up just a bunch of them and then, doing a mass murder at some point. And I dried out just a little too much trying to kill back the isopods after I picked the ones that I wanted. It knocked out the pseudomops colony because last, like February or something, I had a couple hundred in there. So, the holy grail of the Eurycodes floridana from Key Largo, which is those who've gone on the collecting trips with me have found out. Apparently, Key Largo has been completely tidied up and gentrified to the point there's no more fun stuff there except for those mile zero Paraplaneta americana. Oh yeah, this is quite a trip. It's even more of a trip. Hopping on the Wayback Machine and going to blabberous.com, the predecessor. Bugs in Cyberspace with Orin Bugs in Cyberspace on there, whatever. I think when I first started looking at there, maybe 20 species on bugs in cyberspace back in the day. But Blabberous was like super fancy, even though I don't think Peter /Oren updated bugs in cyberspace a lot more frequently than Blabberous, but Blabberous was just sort of more hypnotic, I guess, with its layout and design. I still remember the Rhyperovia Mandarin Goldie Eye listing on there. Actually, you know what? Let me post a link in the chat. Let me get this pulled up. Or Double D's. I hope Dexter is alive and doing well. Last that I had heard from him, he got out of Roaches to focus on his college degree or something so that he could work in wastewater sanitation or something like that because he had cancer. But Double D's, that's another site. You go on there and you go on a nice trip down memory lane. Definitely not the most aesthetic of the websites. Oh boy, this is something. How do we get on this tonight? It's okay. I'm getting up to date on emails. Anything particular that you'd like? I would like Satchel to look for while he's out and about. I want Anisomorpha ferruginea again, which is probably the species that's there of the stick bugs. Eurycodes floridana would be neat from Alabama. Just any roaches in general, except for like Blatella sinai. millipedes, the whatnot, springtails, if you have the patience to find some. Oh, springtail news. Let's talk about some springtail news. William, who has been doing some, I guess I have to formally call it contract work for me, was able to, he went out looking for some springtails yesterday, and while sorting through the samples, he found a springtail which I have been looking for, and is very common, but my usual search methods of meticulously going through the leaf litter and pooting out the individuals is not effective for them because they're very erratic and just get out of the way. So you don't usually see them while using that technique. But Dicertoma fusca, probably fusca, was what he found, maybe a dozen or 15 individuals. Some of them might be a different species too, but that was the most I've ever seen in one place at one time. And so into the springtail breeding bin they went in their own cup. So I'm pretty excited because I have tried some of the little tiny yellow globulars that I find out in my little fake pond in the front yard, usually in the spring and summer on the surface, on the surface of the water. I've tried raising those, and just something doesn't work. There's something about them. They want like really high ventilation, or Satchel says, bought your research specimen vinegaroons from Double D's when they closed their site and were super discounted. Yeah, I don't know if he was getting those wholesale from somebody in the U.S. or if they were that Southeast Asian species or whatever. But yeah, Dex would get some good stuff. I never got to see him at a show or anything like that, unfortunately, because he's on the West Coast and I was a child. But yeah, I mean, he had the Stolpnochlora couloniana listed on his site for a long time, and I was just sort of like, maybe I'll get them, maybe I won't. And then, of course, everybody lost. They sold his USPCI, probably Giganteus from Texas. Yeah, I think all the U.S. vinegaroons are still coming out of Texas now. Those are Giganteus. They're classified as Giganteus. I did receive some M. floridensis, whatever it is, 2 Saturdays ago or something. Unfortunately, they were shipped with no packing material, and every time I've ever seen Florida vinegaroons, wild caught or otherwise, they just, even straight out of the wild, they just look like vinegaroons. They just look like they're always dying. It is a wonder to me that they continue to exist in the wild in Florida, because all of them just look, the abdomen, like finding the Tohono or whatever the Arizona ones are. It's like they have plump abdomens. It's like, oh yeah, these things they're doing fine out here. Then you look at like the like Floridanus ones, and they just look like they're like almost the thickness of like this page on the All Pet Roach book here. They just look like they're just constantly in a state of dying. And it's just kind of interesting that they just continue to persist in Florida for whatever reason, because they're moderately well adapted to those conditions. But yeah, Dex had some good stuff. Oh, well, I got distracted looking for the Wayback Machine. Now, let's see, 2005, looking for blabberous.com. There's a screenshot. Oh, I guess it looked the same since 2005. Oh, yeah, I remember I would constantly pester this guy, James, and I guess it was actually, what's his name? Wasn't James breeding the stuff? Supposedly, I heard a lot of things. You never know who's saying what or if they're true. Not Roachman Willis. He had an associate who supposedly supplied all of his roaches for him. Supposedly. Let's see. So it would have been circa 2007 that I would have been annoying this guy to death with inquiries and wanting to buy things. Oh man, can we go to the Roach page? I'm on the home page right now. Oh yeah. Oh boy. Oh man, this is something. Blaptica dubia, aka Guyana orange spotted roach, $5 for 10 back in 2007. Let's go, boys. Eublaberus prosticus, aka orange head roach, $5 for 10. Oh, all the image links are broken except as you see them. Eublaberus distanti, aka six spotted roach, $8 for 10. Blattolateralis Turkestan roach, $3 for 10. I just spat all over the computer. Tyler Headland, hello, good to see you. Wow, we've got a real something going on here. I'm just going over the Wayback Machine Blabberous page. I'm gonna link this, and people can go through and I used to do that too. I've meticulously gone through and looked at all the Latin names on the cockroach species file to try and find the right ones. We can have our endless discussion about like Blabberus fusca and all that other stuff. But like, if something has a very clear identity and whatnot, I go to the roach species file and find whatever the Latin is there and bum it off there for roach crossing. But yeah, prosticus. So yeah, there's the link to Blabberus, which is pretty big trip down memory lane. I mean, anybody can go all the way back and look at Bugs in Cyberspace and Double D's and see where we were, where we've come from. Boy, look at these. I remember the picture of anybody's looking at the picture of Bursatria fumigata on Blabberus.com just makes them look so much cooler than they actually. It's got this weird lens flare on them. It almost looks like they're like glowing and stuff. And I just remember seeing that and just getting like super hyped. Archimandrita tessellata, $5 each. Oh yeah, look at those colors in that colony. I'm pretty sure that the dark individuals pop up when the colony is kept cooler, and that the lighter individuals are cooler and moister, and the lighter individuals pop up when it's hotter. It seems to be a general trend with roaches. I notice it with Blabberus too. Or there's some environmental thing that causes some of those major differences in coloration that people see in their colony all of a sudden. Polyphaga egyptica, aka desert roach, $4 each. Hormetica subcincta, coming in 2007, aka glow spot roach, $8 each. Blabberus discardalis, $5 for 10. Blabberus fusca, $7 for 10. The Blabberus parabolicus, man, I tried so hard when I was younger to get Blabberus parabolicus from somebody. And I know Oren, I pestered the life out of Oren trying to get them, trying to figure out if, when I got stuff from another dealer, like, I asked him, like, oh, I have these. I'll send you pictures. Oh, hey, like, they look like this. They don't look like that. And Oren would just always respond with, like, the same thing. He always said, they're twice the mass of discoids. Parabolicus are twice the mass of discoids. Or it was just, like, the same response email every time. And I finally did get some of that old line of Parabolicus from Dexter at Double D's. And those are the ones that I used to have. I feel pretty comfortable saying they were probably hybrids. I don't know with what. I don't know how. But they were probably hybrids. But I'm very, very, very thankful to Gil Wisen for introducing the Colombian true Parabolicus into culture. And mine are just thriving, and it's just like it's just weird, thinking about how some things even a year ago that were suffering and I didn't have much of, like my Rhyperobria materi, and what's another thing I was just looking at today and thinking like, wow, I have a lot of these now. Blabberus boliviensis, and just thinking about how like I have these nice colonies with them. They'll probably never burn out ever again with the new husbandry and stuff that I'm on. And just thinking like wow, like this is cool. Like I really wanted these when I was younger, and now I have like a nice colony going. And yeah, it's just interesting. Blabberus colossius, aka Ecuador roach. I'm still going back on the Blabberus. I remember getting to the second page with the Colossius and just being like, yeah, I'm gonna get these from him. Oh yeah, Gromphidorina portentosa giant morph, $7 per nymph. Contact for availability. Oh shoot, Tyler, you were just asking for at this point. There's some colonies like those that I don't think anything can happen just because of they have so much. There's so much space, such a gradient of conditions. There's so many of them too. It's like some of these colonies. It's like if they go into a nosedive, something sticks with them. Either it's epigenetic or it's like the collective like gut microflora of the colony. Just will just swing out of whack, and sometimes there's just nothing that you can. Connection is unstable. Please wait while we try reconnecting. Oh, it's probably fine. I don't know. There's just like nothing that you can do to get the colony back on track after that. Good example, probably when I lost my Leucohermetica grossi the first time. The colony just, when I went through some stuff 3-ish years ago, and I just didn't feed or water anything. It's actually kind of a miracle that I still have as much as I do and still did after that. And some things were completely fine, like the him blabber just didn't even realize anything happened. But like I didn't, take care of the Leucohermetica grossi, and I had all these adults, and then just by the time I picked things up again, I was like, all right, I got like 20 or 30 adults and sub-adults. It's like, let's go. I'm back. And I started taking care of them, and they just never recovered from whatever had happened. That's another one that went into a nosedive, kind of like that. Rhabdoblata, all the epilamprinids, basically, once a colony nosedive dives, it's just like you got to really pull on the freaking steering wheel to like reroute the plane from crashing. Epilampra do that too. I think I threw some Porcelia laevis that I was trying to isolate in with my Epilampra, and they crashed, and I got more. So it's all good now. But once I stopped regularly feeding over the summer and whatnot, it's just like nosedive, don't recover. Epilampra or Epilamprini species Borneo took a while to go down. I actually forgot that I put the bin in the spare room, because I was like, oh yeah, I'll just grab like a handful out there, throw them into another 10-gallon, and everything will be fine. And I just kept putting it off, and then next thing I know, I went to go check on it. It's like, oh, there's a bunch of isopods in here, but there's only like one roach. So yeah, some stuff nosedives, and you'll just lose it and not be able to get it back without extreme effort. And Blabberus boliviensis were kind of like that for me. They just always kind of were weird. I think there's something I'm not doing now that I used to when I was younger that just kept them in better shape. And I think I figured out with like the peppered roaches, where it was like they probably wanted more heat. They wanted more of a gradient or more ventilation. So I put them into a display tank in the living room, and now they're just like on track to be like I remember the colony being when I first started. So I'm going to go grab a quick drink. It seems like we're at 8:30, but I feel like continuing because I've been getting a fair amount of emails done. Where is my home shoe? Oh, he's right there. So yeah, colonies crash. Panchlora are kind of like that too. Not as much. It's another species that I've just had nosedive. Yeah, long. Weirdest thing with my red black and the calling in a house. Ceiling in a house I was living in leaked and filled their enclosure, but they survived with a tiny bit of egg crate I gave them. But then one day I looked at them too hard or something and they crashed. Yeah, those rustica are just, if you don't have food in them and they're too crowded, they just nosedive, which is why We have probably, unless Junior gets a. Junior just responded. I have my phone as shiny larvitar because that's his username on the Roach forum. Oh no. Oh. Yeah, so Tyler, if you don't have a colony and Junior doesn't have a colony, TJ doesn't have a colony, Alan doesn't have a colony, Ty doesn't have a colony, they might be screwed. So we gotta all pray that my last 3 adult females got fertilized. They're in perfect setup. I'm back on all my husbandry schedule, etc. They're physically in great health. We just have to pray that they're not virgins, because otherwise, I don't think anyone in Europe has rustica either. We might be in some big trouble, and I really like them. The Taiwanese leaf mimic. They're really cool roaches. They're just such glass cannons, though. I mean, it's like I really hate when we trade species. Like, we get like 2 in, and then like one species of whatever genus dies, and then we're just left with the other one, or we like lose a culture of one, and then like a couple of years or months later, so then we get another culture of another species. It's like I want both of them. So it kind of sucks that now we have the Epilamprine Borneo, which are really cool. They look a lot like thorax, but they're not. So now we have those big chunky things that look kind of like leaves. And then, but now it's like at what cost? It's like now we may not have rustica anymore. Oh, Kyle, back in July, I wish I could go back in time. Just grab the handful of rustica, put them in a new enclosure, and just pour a bunch of food in there and forget about them, and they'll be fine. But oh well, we'll see. They're pretty fast breeders, so I have no. If the females are gravid, I have no worries. If I can get 10 babies, will be good. What species have died out of the hobby over the years? That is an excellent question. We have lost, at least with stuff. I'll touch on some things that I had received and then lost, and then on things that were in the collective culture and then lost. For Mosin sand roaches, Oren used to offer those, and I really could never ever get them to breed. I think I kept them too humid, even though I tried like the dry substrate in a humid container because that's what I could give them at the time when I was younger, and I think I got like 1 ooth out of them, and then just nothing happened. So we lost those. We lost the original line of Parabolicus that wasn't a hybrid. We continue to gain and then lose Dryma semivida. I actually do know somebody who is working with them currently. Fingers crossed. Matt K posted a picture on Roach Forum a long time ago of a critter keeper that just had just the whole wall covered in young Dryma planida. And I think TJ had some good success with those before too. I always sucked with them when I was using less ventilated setups because they want to just be dry, like Uricotis. They're both polyzosterine roaches. At one point, I received some Heterogamodes hebraica, probably one of the coolest roaches I have ever seen. They're just spiny balls with legs. This is very, even more so than most Aranavega are, sand adapted living dwelling cockroach. I really, really hate myself for losing those. So the chances of anybody ever acquiring them again is very, very low. But they were very cool. Definitely in my top 5 to 10 species in terms of just sheer. I mean, my favorite species are ivories, but just aesthetically, I know the ivories are cool. It's just a personal favorite for a billion different reasons. But Heterogamotes are just really, really cool roaches, so we lost those. As some eggs is saying, Paranophyta discoidalis, which TJ says is actually Rufapes. We lost those before people really hammered out Paranophyta husbandry. Currently, my Formosana crashed over the summer. They're going to be fine. I'm just waiting for them to rebound. My Lirata are doing fine. So there was a large species of Paraplaneta from Southeast Asia. I can't remember what the tag was after the Paraplaneta species, but they look like basically gigantic, like Fulaginosa is about that big. They look like basically gigantic Fulaginosa. They're a nice maroon color. And I received those. And I was like, yeah, I got adults and I'm going to get babies. But they probably had some sort of nematode or something when they came. I'm pretty sure that I received probably wild-caught individuals. And somebody jumped the gun on selling. But yeah, those are really cool. And all the adults just died. They reached maturity and died within a couple of days. My husbandry, I'm pretty sure, was spot on there. We are currently in the middle of determining if we've lost the true pure line of Princessia van Weerebecki. And I think TJ sent me some stock that came from Cape Cod before they added more roaches to their colony. I received stock from more recent Cape Cod Princessia colony and from somebody who had acquired them a long time ago. The recent ones almost certainly are hybrids with something. I don't know what, but almost certainly. Inconsistency of coloration, pronotum, all this other stuff. But the older line, which I received from TJ, they look pretty good. And I still actually have one adult male from my old colony of guaranteed pure princesses. The thing's huge. There's a picture on the blog of it with a little Christmas hat on last year. But he's fine. He's still going strong. And so I put a immature female from the most likely pure old Cape Cod stock in with him in addition to the separate colony of those I have going. So other stuff that let's look at this. Josh says Oleriana Torreya. I don't have Oleriana. I always suck with Oleriana, so I don't have those. So those are lost, but I don't really count. And this is probably putting a bigger burden on Alan than I should, but I don't really count us as losing a lot of the Parkablatta because Alan will always go out and find a new locality or something somewhere. And I do love collecting localities. It's just when the chances of getting a line established of some of them is very low. Like if I have a very small number of starter individuals, it's just like, well, I just sort of write it off sometimes, because there's more work to try and keep multiple localities of something going. And I would rather have good thriving colonies of one locality of each different Parkablatta species or something than trying to, have all of them and just failing left and right with stuff. So I don't have Oleriana. I figure Alan has them or can find more. But I don't have the Torreya line of Oleriana. Analacta methanoides. So those have made a comeback. I have a good thriving colony of them now, and I'm not concerned that they're going to go extinct or anything anytime soon. I've really hammered out the husbandry. TJ says keep them moist or wet almost. I think Brandon was also saying keep them moist or wet. Mine died when I did that. So they're in a dry 5.5 gallon with a moist corner, and I have like hundreds of them. So different things work well for different people. They might have drier houses during the summertime. I do not, and that's a big problem for me. Actually, I had Princessia. Yeah, so the ones that from Bugs in Cyberspace, a long time ago I got Princessia from Bugs in Cyberspace. I think I may have actually directly gotten them from Oren. And I got a pair or something like that, where they were sold as at the time. And the male emerged, matured, and looked like a Princessia. The female was reddish, and so I had messaged Oren on Roach Forum and was like, "Hey, the female looks different. Is this weird or whatever?" And he said something along the lines of like, "Yeah, they probably have like a little bit of something else mixed in with them, but it doesn't really matter because they're all the same species anyways." And I was just sort of like, so I think that would have been maybe like 2010-ish. And so I sold them to somebody on Arachna boards, and I made it very clear. I was like, hey, these are not pure Princessia. You should only use them as feeders or just enjoy the colony or what have you. Or if you sell them, just make sure you say these are not pure, they're hybrids, whatever. So by now, maybe Oren has selected for individuals that look like pure Princessia, but genetically that does not make them pure Princessia or pure whatever that entity is, which is also why I label, I still have like the Granfordorina Grenadier I labeled as such and whatnot, because I know the second that I switch labels and start calling them Princessia or whatever one of the opinions is before the George Beccaloni ever goes through and actually does a revision of Granfordorina, that people are going to start mixing them up, because people mix up everything, especially when names change and whatnot. So that's why I still have them labeled as Grenadieri. And then somebody just needs to work on it. Somebody needs to work on Granfordorina, and they've been trying to do that for years. Somebody just needs to go and do it. There has to be somebody who needs a PhD who can go and revise Granfordorina. Anyways, getting back on the species, we've lost looking at the book. The old book, Aranavega species. Oh yeah, just Aranavega species. Just no locality, no nothing. These are some pretty cool atropos here. These kind of look like some of the atropos from the Florida strain here with the really big markings. So we have atropos. We have the ones from the Wynwood neighborhood. And Alan was like, "Oh, maybe they're weird Discoidalis." I don't think they're Discoidalis. No, none of the Discoidalis localities have any variability in pronotum markings like that. None of the Discoidalis lines I've had over the years, and the hybrid ones have had any sort of variation like this. And even then, the hybrids have the nymphs look weird and red, and their antennae are messed up and whatnot. Colossius, we have Colossius still. Oh, Rhabdoblata yamina. Rhabdoblata yamina was in culture for a while. I received some. They were in poor shape. Did everything I could to try and get them to breed. Now, if I had received them nowadays, I probably would have gotten some offspring out of them. Those were really cool roaches too. They were like huge, like that. Compared to my hand, I guess. They were huge and very unique looking and whatnot. But those are now gone. Florida Blabberus, Rip Banana Bay. Yeah. So anybody who's listening in, Banana Bay is a collection locality for both our captive Eurycotis lixa and pure Discoidalis, which I lost my just like trash random origin. I think it's from a ex porn star who lived in Las Vegas, who sent me a colony that she had isolated for like decades or something like that. So it was for sure pure Blabberus Discoidalis, because nothing else was in culture back then. So she sent me a colony of those, and so I had my like feeder line of Discoidalis that was pure but of no particular origin. So Banana Bay, now that all the captive Blabberus Discoidalis that are commonly distributed are all contaminated with Boliviensis. Banana Bay is a pure discoid locality. From the Banana Bay Inn and Resort on Marathon Key in Florida. And we went there and had a magical collecting day where we found Eurycotis lixa and Blabberus Discoidalis, all kinds of really good stuff crawling around that place. But then they went through a makeover and redid a bunch of their facilities and are now trying to be an actual inn and resort or whatever. So while they were very encouraging of us while we were there to go out and collect, and all kinds of bugs and stuff. When Brandon Maines went out there to collect, I think on his honeymoon even, they did not allow him to do any of that stuff now that they've gone through their name change and restructure and whatever to try and become a more fancy, lucrative resort. And apparently the area where Uricotis lixa were found has been bulldozed and turned to some atrocity of a building or what have you. So yeah, rip Banana Bay for collecting and stuff, but at least we have the Discoidalis and the lixa still in captivity. Yeah, rip the place. What creature is in your doorway? That's my dog. That is my dog, Victor. He is an Armenian Gomper. His father was imported from Eastern Armenia, and his mother is descended from stock from Northern Armenia. So he's basically like the village shepherd. Gompers are like the village shepherd dogs, basically the indigenous of the indigenous Armenians used for guarding livestock and whatnot, or killing wolves and stuff like that. So yeah, that's my boy. That's Big V. And he's only 5 months old, and he's like 55 pounds. So he's a good boy. He's in the dead center of teething right now, but he's a good boy. So yes, that is the creature in my hallway. Anyways, and my brain is really wants to go through this book and see what we've lost, or if we literally have everything. It's across the street from Banana Bay. Yeah, and Alan was saying the woods across. Oh, there go the lights. The woods across the street from Banana. Hello. Across the street from Banana Bay could still be. What do you need? Use your words. Do you want love, or do you want to go out? He's a very good boy. Yes, he is. That's a good boy. That's very teethy, though. Yes, he is. He's getting his big boy teeth in. Yes, he is. You gonna go out? What do you want? He probably wants attention. You gotta go on a walk tonight. But yeah, Alan said that across the street could have some stuff, but who knows? I mean, with the way the stuff seems to be disappearing in the Keys, like the fact we went to that pirate museum this last trip to look for the Blabber's Cranny for that Alan's advisor. Can I help you? Had found there just 10 years prior. Something wasn't too long ago. And apparently they had completely cleaned everything up, and the Blabber's Cranny fur were gone. What would you like? You gotta go outside? Well, you wanna go patrol the yard? Come on, let's go outside. Come on, Victor. Go tell him. So yeah, considering how things are getting bulldozed and changed around and gentrified and whatnot in the Keys, there's a fair chance that a lot of that stuff is going to be lost semi-soonish. So Blabber's Cranifer, Blabber's Discoidalis, Blabber's Fusca, still all these, Blabber's Giganteus, Blabber's Parabolicus, which we now have pure ones, so win-win all around. Blapticadubia, Blada orientalis, Blada shelfordella, Lateralis, we got those. Blatella germanica, Blatella nipponica. We don't have nipponica anymore. Alan had some. I had some when I was still living with my parents, and just Ectobias just did not do well for me. Again, with the fluctuation of conditions between summer and winter. They do really well all winter. When things are really dry, you can just dump water into containers. But they struggle during the summertime when things are moister for some reason. So I don't have Nipponica. I believe there is at least one hobbyist in the United States who is working with something other than Germanica, Vega, or Asani. And I believe his are doing quite well, so they'll probably pop up eventually. Bristotria fumigata, we have Bristotria rothi, Cryptocarchus punctulatus. I don't think Oren was breeding them. But, hey, Samson, if you're still there, those Cryptocarchus variety that you sent me, the last set, are actually still alive and doing very well in the container I have them in. And they're actually like burrows and chambers along the side. And I really don't want to open it up because I don't want to like disturb them if they're doing well. Same issue down in Texas. Construction has really screwed that up. Had an incredibly productive collecting spot that's gone now for houses. Yeah. I think if my Lake Placid Aranavega floridensis colony. It may have bit the bullet. I don't know. I'll touch on that in a second here. But yeah, Alan was saying that whole area it's been paved and there's like clearly spots where they're going to put houses. Which also I don't know if they can do that because there are those federally listed endangered sand skinks there. So I don't know how that works. But anyways, I'd probably go there and try and clean out the Aranavega floridensis again and put them in a new setup. I'll touch on that now. So I'm suspicious that I was talking with Will while we were working on husbandry today that Aranavega floridensis is probably very closely related to Aranavega booleana because they both live in similar habitats in the wild. Their ranges, booleana is basically like central to eastern Texas. I'm going to check iNaturalist to make sure I'm not talking out of my buttocks here for Aranavega booleana. I'm going off of what I remember. Booleana is also one of the largest Aranavega species, so it's very easy for people to identify. Map. So, yeah, a lot of Aranavega booleana is reported from central to southern eastern Texas. And then there's a couple of data points from other places that are not reliable. I very highly doubt they range all the way to Los Angeles. So somebody probably misidentified that. But, the cluster of identifications is around central, eastern, southern Texas. So that is very close to being, adjoining with Florida. And in terms of morphology, habitat preference, even kind of size, they're very similar to each other. So I would bet that floridensis and booleana form a clade. So Alan found the Del Rio booleana in somebody's front, who he had permission, somebody's front yard underneath a live oak tree. So they were living in the leaf litter under the tree, free roaming. And the floridensis we also found them living freely in Florida. Somebody who sent the customer who sent me the colony of the Hill County or Hill Country Texas booleana was saying he was accrediting his success with them to the leaf litter that he had added. So it was rotting oak leaf litter that he was feeding them primarily, and that's why the colony was doing so well. And I don't tend to keep a lot of leaf litter with my Aranavega. And my floridensis have been, I have the colony of Archbold and the Lake Placid that we collected, seeing them in the wild, being able to see stuff. There's a lot of rabbit poop and other stuff for them to eat and leaf litter. But I didn't put together that, until I remember what the customer said about the booleana, was, the leaf litter is probably why they're doing so well in my culture. And I was like, should I be feeding my Aranavega floridensis leaf litter? So, because like I said, they've been doing well, especially the Archbold were doing very well. And then over the summer came and humid air, blah, blah, blah. They didn't seem to be doing as well. So I went through and added some extremely well-rotted oak leaf litter to both my booleana cultures and to my floridensis in the basement, at least. Probably added the ones that's up here. Maybe I'll do that tomorrow. So that's what I'm thinking is maybe floridensis wants more leaf, and it makes sense. It's what their wild habitat is like. It's just the sand with the mixture of the surrounding leaf litter. And actually, it's getting a little cool outside. Close that window. Just a note while I was on that, hitting the book back up again here to see what we lost. Elliptorhinus species V-horn. So we have V-horns, Levigata, Remobletta, Subdiaphana, and I don't think any of this, not all of these were perpetually in culture. Jumping through here because we're getting a little low on time. I'd like to get through some more emails. It seems like for the most part we still have all these. Panesthea, Angustipennis. A couple of people in the U.S. working with Panesthea currently. I may actually have some Cognata for sale or be putting them actually up on the website soon because my Cognata from Laos or Laos line or whatever are doing exceptionally well. It's the best I've done with any Panacea. Paratropies, a picture in here in the book, but those have never been cultured to my knowledge. A lot of Parkablata. Pycnoscelis turnamensis, black-winged. Rhabdoblata, perhaps actual Rhabdoblata formosana in here. So yeah, that's kind of the Yaminar in here too. Oh, they were such cool roaches. It's so cool. We have gained far more than we have lost over the years, which I feel is nice. I think that's very nice that we've gained more cultures than we have lost. I'm sad about some things that we lost, like the mystery behind the Formosan sand roaches, and everybody trying to figure out, is it like Taiwan type sand roaches? Are they from Taiwan? Were they mislabeled? I think Mark Mayer was really looking into that and had come to some sort of conclusion. But they're nifty roaches. They look like Aranavega Tonkawa, but they weren't. Heterogomodes, like, I wish I hadn't screwed up with those. But we have tons of cool species now. We've got Pseudoglomerus magnifica. We have those Forto-ioica species. I can't remember what the species name was. We still have Lanxoblata colonies over there. They seem to be doing okay. Apparently people aren't doing too well with them, and I didn't do too well with them the first time around either. Elliptorhina leafigata. We had lost it, and then that one customer was like, "Hey, I have a colony of these in like my basement. Like, do you want some?" It was like, "Yes, give them to me." So we have Elliptorhina leafigata again after we lost it. We have Princessia probably again after we lost those. So yeah, I mean, pretty good. It was nice to sit down and think about some stuff. More importantly, think about what could have been, all the things that people may have had opportunities to grab and culture. We just didn't for X, Y, and Z reasons. So show more roaches before you go. Okay, I can't argue with that. Let me just see what Tyler brings up here. Interesting as well, since the range from Del Rio to Starr County shouldn't have very consistent leaf layer because of the tree species present, though it's dry enough that things never rot. Yeah, I mean, it's possible also that, as a fair number of roaches tend to do, tend to be benefiting from human man-made structures and influences, and just people having an irrigated front yard, even just a little bit, and having a live oak tree or something that's a bit out of range and having leaf litter accruing just could make things more favorable within 20 or 30 years for a little colony of sand roaches to build up somewhere that they normally would just be barely persisting. One more roach we lost. Daropeltis species Jinka. I don't think anybody in the U.S. still has them. There may be somebody working with a very similar, and from the pictures that I have seen, probably the same species, but Daropeltis species Masai Mara. So those may pop up in the near future. Who knows? And back on and off, Daropeltis erythrocephala. I've seen pictures of somebody in Japan. There's a guy, I don't know his name. I've tried to contact him to no avail, in Japan, who has a lot of pictures and very long-going blog of his insect husbandry, pictures of all kinds of roaches they somehow get in Japan, of Daropeltis erythrocephala. I've never had them. I've pestered Dexter from Double D's at one point, claimed he had them, and I pestered him incessantly, and he wouldn't send me any, unfortunately. But yeah, so we have supposedly have had those on and off and whatnot. I feel like there was one more. Thorax porcellana. Brandon Maines had them, and then his colony collapsed. Archaeblata hoveni pops up occasionally. Somebody's somehow getting them into the country or something. But I had them. They did very well. And then I had my big stressy, depressy lemon zesty back three-ish years ago and let the colony dry out during the summer, and I really regret that. But I figured that they're pretty pretty iconic that somebody will get more again. So some more roaches, before we go. What can I pick off from the gigantic wall here? Something accessible. I'm gonna need the headline for this. Cat comes off. Let's go with the Bantua. You know, this colony has been quite vigorous for me. We finally have actual Bantua and not the Neostylopiga that people were labeling as Bantua for whatever reason. So let's take a quick look see here. If I can find some, they're a real pain. I had a critter keeper that was a lot smaller than this, like a fourth or third the size, one of the smaller sizes one, which is what I started the colony in. And I got maybe 12 from TJ last year, threw them in there and just sort of figured, oh yeah, they're kind of slow growing, kind of slow breeding. You know, I don't know if I'm, you know, if I have a good colony, I'll just crack it open one day and see what's in there. And then I upgraded them 2-3 weeks ago and found out that there were like 150 of them in the container somehow, and I had no idea that there were anywhere near that many. I would have said there were 30. So this is a Bantua robusta Namibia adult female. These are actually really cool roaches. It may not seem like much initially, but when you like dissect what they are, you kind of have a better appreciation for them, since they're Paraspherinae, I believe, pretty sure. So they're related to Pseudoglomerus and Paraspherus and Choroidorum. That's still valid, I think, according to TJ. What kind of headlamp is this? This is some Swiss something brand from Swiss Tech from Walmart. It was like $40, rechargeable. It's very bright. It doesn't last as long as I wish it would, but it charges very quickly, and I like that. It's very bright, adjustable beam focus. It also has a blacklight feature in it, so I really like that. So I've been using this for the last couple of months. So this Bantua robusta here. TJ and I had a little bit of not an argument, but a discussion about a common name for these. So he's been calling them, or people have been calling them, barrel roaches, which is pretty applicable. But in the Roach All Pet Roach book, it references the African bullet roaches, which are actually probably Neostylopiga species. As African bullet roaches, Bantua robusta would be robust bullet roach. And when I got these, and I had mostly nymphs and then adult males, which are really cool. They're like really elongated, which makes them look really like freaky. So they're really elongated and jet black. They're really cool. So I got them. I had the nymphs, and the nymphs are they look like, whoa! I did not know they could jump. That's interesting. The nymphs are like this adult female, but they have sort of I believe TJ says it's sort of like a waxy bloom. So they have a coarse appearance that is not sort of glossy like this adult female is. The adult females mature with that sort of waxy coating appearance, and then it apparently rubs off as they go about their life. So. But I looked at this adult female, void of whatever that covering is, and I thought, this looks a lot like a bullet or something like that. So I'm curious if the common name and Latin name were applied to somebody who had originally gotten these, or had read about these, or had seen these or something, and then slapped it on. Somebody found the roaches under the log at Kilimanjaro and thought, oh, these must be Bantua robusta. I'm going to call them bullet roaches because they look like bullets or whatever, what have you. So, barrel roach is pretty applicable. I mean, they do have sort of a barrel-y shape and texture and whatnot. So, yeah, I really like these. I think these are probably one of those species where, kind of like the heterogamotes, where it's like they're very different from a lot of other roaches that we have in culture. with the weird elongated males and these weird. Are you wingless or are you Micropterus? I'm gonna blast this thing with the headlamp and see if they're wingless or Micropterus. They are completely apterous. Okay, so there's no wings here. There's not like like a Pycnoscelis tenebrigera where they're Micropterus. This is completely apterous. But yeah, they're really cool, especially the nymphs being, the weird bloom on them. They kind of remind me of like a fossil, like a dusty, like they're covering like dust over like a fossil. You can see like the texture of the underlayment, but there's sort of a dust covering everything on the nymphs at least, which I would have loved to show, but they're buried. All 120 or whatever of them are buried into that setup, and I will probably not find them unless I have to dig through the whole thing for orders. But this female was underneath and easy to find. So, Bantua robusta, whoa, robust barrel roach. That's a good cockroach. So, with that, I believe we will wrap up this live stream. I'll probably do a mixture of doing some more emails tonight so I can make further progress in that and hit my goal of having everything completely done and back on track and yada, yada, yada by October 30th, which is like a day from now. So, put that bad boy right on up here. With that being said, put my hat on for my sign off. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Wow, we've got even more people now. Wonder if maybe I should bump this to a later time. Maybe I'll put something up on the Roach Crossing main page and do a poll and see if this time works. I like 7 because by then I'm done with everything in the bug room downstairs. Not a lot of distractions. Otherwise, Thursday's a good day for me as well. But maybe we'll do a live stream, bump the time back or forward, or bump the time back and see how that goes. For anybody who's tuning in, I had mentioned this earlier when I don't think there was anybody here. Except for Mr. Some Eggs, I appreciate your enthusiasm and your omnipresence. I will eventually do some giveaways and some weird things like that. I may do things as silly as giving away rhino roach pairs or something to whatever. I don't know how this whole streaming things work. I'll find a way. But yeah, so I can put up something on like I said, on the homepage, and we'll see if a later time would work for a broader audience. I know a couple of people have brought up the time is not the best for them, so it was great hearing from everyone. I like that. I like that the Roach community is sort of being drawn together into here in real time. I'm happy to be able to facilitate that. It kind of makes me want to go back onto Roach forum frequently, but sometimes it's just choosing between emails and doing something other than that. And it's nice that I can kind of do a little of both right now. Keeping up on that. So thanks for joining me, everybody, at I will never remember this, I can almost guarantee it, the Roach Crossing weekly general live stream, October 28th, 2021. I hope you have a delightful evening, and I will hopefully see everybody next week. So take care. It's kind of a creepy smile.